We're looking at some small horsepower rods here. We have new bearings from Fines in England, very high quality, centrifugally cast. These would replace the original aluminum Hulls metal bearings or Babbitt metal bearings in other small horsepower engines. There's one issue that we sometimes face when we're looking at rods that went either with Hulls metal bearings or with certain series of Rolls, pre-war Rolls and Bentley small horsepower, and that is we have a single oil hole here to feed the small end bushing to provide pressurized oil to the wrist pin or gudgeon pin as they call it in England. And here we have the bearings as received from Fines, and as you can see there's no groove or anything connecting these two holes and allowing oil up through. So if you don't make a modification to connect these holes and this, you will end up starving your little end bushing. More importantly, you'll end up starving that tiny little hole there, which is your extra oil that sprays oil all the time on the thrust side of the piston. That's more concerning than not getting it up to your wrist pin. So the solution is relatively straightforward. We set up the rods on a mill, and using a side cutter, we simply come in and very carefully cut a groove in the rods. This actually mimics the bearings from other rods. And what we end up with when we're finished our cuts, and that was just a sort of quick example, we end up with a pair of channels. You can see these are offset a little. That doesn't really matter. I can use the digital readout to mark them up, but the important part is that the holes are now connected and allow a full oil flow to come up from the bearing into the extra oil hole right there, that tiny little hole right there if you can see it, and of course to feed the little end bushings.